Hello, 7th graders and 7A. It's great to be with you today. I am coming to you to help you on your final exam. I have found that this exam for 7A is extremely rigorous. That means hard. And I'm going to video you a review that should help you in preparation. Now, the review, as in all reviews, is to remind you of what's important and to help you with your studying. Because I've had many of you contact me and say, I don't even know where to start studying because there's so much material. And you will find as I make this video that there is a lot of material. So what I advise you to do is to watch the video, have a notebook beside you or a spiral or paper so that you can take notes. You can pause the video as you go along and listen. Now, you cannot use these notes during the exam, okay? But they will help you in studying. So that's the whole purpose of this. So we're going to get started. It's going to take a little while. I've got my iced tea right here, my Chick-fil-A iced tea. So I'm going to have to sip on that some. All right, are you ready? Let me get my glasses on so I can be ready. Here we go. All right, this is, are we going to answer true or false? Okay. The Native Americans believed that the actions of a shaman or shaman, I'm not sure the correct way to spell it, to pronounce it, can cause illness. Did the Native Americans believe this? Yes, they did. They really believed in access to spirits, and they did believe this. Atiqua, or the group Tiqua, adopted tracing the descent of your ancestry through your father. This is true. So if you ever, have looked at your ancestry through 23andMe or any of that stuff, they actually look at your father and your mother's side, but the Tiquas actually trace through the father's side. This is called paternal. If you talk about patriarch, that's the man of the family. The matriarch is the mother, so that's paternal. All right. Then they're going to ask you about oil centers in Texas. If I said, is Midland, Odessa an oil center, you would say yes. If I said, is Dallas an oil center, you would say no. So I think y'all did a map on that. Just know that Midland is yes, Dallas is no. Were most of Stephen F. Austin's first settlers farmers? No. They were wealthy people and highly educated people. Now, that's not to say that a farmer cannot be educated, but were the first settlers farmers? No. Now, some people tend to believe they would be because they could grow the food, but they were not. All right. Green DeWitt was one of the most successful Anglo-American colonies in Texas. Now, you know how you can remember that? Green should make you think of money and many people equate money with success. That's a way to remember it. Green DeWitt, one of the most successful Anglo-American colonies in Texas. In Texas, are there many names of streets and places in Spanish? Ding, ding, ding. You should know that that answer is yes. Y'all did a whole assignment where you wrote down Spanish names for roads, cities, etc. Yes. Did a lot of people from Mexico move to Texas in the 1820s? Did many Mexicans move to Spanish Texas in the 1820s? No. Most of the people who came to Texas then to follow Stephen F. Austin were Anglo. All right, that's the first section. We've got 9 sections. Let's move on. March 2nd is Texas Independence Day. Okay, y'all probably have never celebrated that, but it is. So was that the day of our Constitution? No. Texas Independence Day is the day we won independence from Mexico. So they're going to try to trick you with that question. So it wasn't about the Constitution. It was the day that we declared independence from Mexico. All right. In 1835, Mexico captured a mule train to San Antonio named Grass Fort. Is this true or false? In 1835, did Mexico capture a mule train toward San Antonio named Grass Fort? And that is false. That is false. The Pierce Plan. Okay, the Pierce Plan. In 1850, Texas gave up land in New Mexico for $10 million. Okay, the Pierce Plan. In 1850, Texas gave up land in New Mexico for $10 million. I need to go back to what I just said about 1835. Mexico captured a mule train to San Antonio, and I said false. I shouldn't have said false. Okay. In 1835, Mexico captured a mule train towards San Antonio, and it was named Grass Fort. Grass Fort. All right. The Gadsden Purchase. When you hear the Gadsden Purchase, you need to think of New Mexico and Arizona were bought by the U.S. from Mexico. That is such a weird name, the Gadsden Purchase. But Gadsden goes with New Mexico and Arizona. Okay. The Treaty of Annexation of 1844. 12 million United States people came to Texas. No. $12 million was paid to Texas. I'm so sorry. I wrote this and it's a big mess. The Treaty of the Annexation of 1844, 12 million was given to Texas for their annexation. And we became a state in 1845. So this treaty happened and then we became a state. Okay, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. This was the peace agreement between the U.S. and Mexico after the U.S.-Mexican War. Okay? Now, the Mexican Cession. This is what Mexico had to do once the war was over. the United States won, Mexico lost. So a cession is what you have to cede over because you lost. So they had to give a lot of land to the U.S. Okay, so the Mexican cession was about Mexico giving land to the U.S. after they lost the war. All right. Sam Houston and Mirabeau Lamar were in opposition about something. Sam wanted it, Mirabeau did not. What a name, Mirabeau. So what were they at odds about? And here's what it was. Sam wanted to be annexed with the U.S. and Mirabeau did not. So what is annexing? So let's pretend like my head is Texas, okay? And here's the United States. So here we are in Texas. We're at the bottom in the middle. So to annex something means that you redraw the lines and take ownership of it. So if the lines came, from the East Coast this way, they redrew the lines around Texas to own it. And that is annexing. So here's Texas. They drew the lines around us. Okay? Now, after the U.S.-Mexican War, the U.S. gained more territory. We just talked about that the Mexicans had to hand over land. But what issue did that cause? What arguments did that cause? Slavery. Because the U.S. had equal numbers of slave states and non-slave states. And this caused problems because they were gaining more land. So that's the answer, that slavery was the main issue. All right, we finished section 2. Now we're on section 3. Do you see how long this is going to be? Hang in there, though. You can do this. All right, next section. Lamar and Houston, Mirabeau and Sam had more conflicts between Texas and Mexico. All right. Excuse me. I said that wrong. When Lamar and Houston were in control of Texas, they were both presidents of the Republic of Texas because Texas was its own country at this time. They had many conflicts between Texas and Mexico. And you've got to put them in order. There's 4 of them, and here's how you can remember. It's CSSM. CSSM. So here's the order. Cordova Rebellion, Santa Fe Expedition, Salado Creek, and the Mir Expedition. So let's repeat those. CSSM, but you've got to make sure you get the S's in the correct order. Cordova, Santa Fe, Salado, and the Mir. So remember that Santa Fe comes before Salado. CSSM. All right. By the way, this test has no essays. It is all either true, false, matching, or multiple choice. All right. Events of the Texas Revolution and the Republic of Texas. Texas independence from Mexico involved Presidents Houston and Lamar. So it's going to ask you during the events of the Texas Revolution, who below was part of it, and it's Sam Houston, and Mirabeau Lamar. Why would location of Austin draw opposition from Texas? So when they chose Austin as the capital city, why was that opposed by a lot of Texans? And it's because it was too close to the area that they were scared of. Okay? It was near the Native Americans. It was near Mexico at that time, the disputed areas. There was a whole lesson y'all did on that with a map. Okay, how did African Americans come to live in Texas? What brought them? Of course, it was slavery, but the answer is Southern farmers are who brought them to Texas to help, first of all, in the household and then on the farms. Okay, so it was Southern farmers who brought African Americans to Texas. All right, yay, we're through with that section. Next. People that came to Stephen F. Austin's colonies, such as doctors and merchants, what did they get? They got extra land. So it was all about the land, okay? But people like doctors, merchants, wealthy, educated people got extra land. Okay, why did Stephen F. Austin, choose to put his colony in the coastal plains between the Colorado and the Brazos River? Well, I've been to this area, and first of all, it's beautiful. But here's the answer. It has rich soil, it has lots of water, and it was warm climate. Those of you who live in that area, in the hill country, know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. Okay, Moses Austin, who is Stephen's father, Moses Austin, brought Anglo settlements to Spanish Texas. The reason we say Spanish Texas is because that part of Texas at that time was owned and operated by Spain. So Moses brought Anglo settlements. All right. In 1824, Mexico colonization law, 1824, the Mexican colonization law brought permanent residents to get land. It required you to say, I'm going to permanently live here. I'm going to do that. In order to get land, you had to say, yeah, I'm coming to Texas and I'm going to live there and stay there. It wasn't like you just bought it for your vacation home. You had to come and live there. All right. Spain's, I cannot read my writing. Spain's North American colonies included. Now, the answer to this is false. Okay, it's false. Spain's North American colonies included California to New Mexico and the Mississippi. And that's false. The only reason I think that's false is because it included Texas. And they didn't mention Texas here. So, that's false. Okay, yay, we're through with that section. Now we're going to go to section number 5. Are you with me? There's 9 in all. Stay with me. Stay with me. All right. Is this hard? Yes, it is. I agree with you that it is hard. All right. But I'm trying to help you as best I can. All right. The answer to this is either true or false on these next two. Were East Texas missions interrupted by the War of Mexico and Spain? This was in the year 1710. The answer is no. False. Did many Texans blame holy water for diseases? No. False. They didn't blame holy water for the disease. When you say, what is holy water? That would be at a church. Well, it doesn't have to be at a church, but this is known mainly in the Catholic denomination, and they had the holy water. And anyway, that the answer is no. They didn't blame holy water for disease. All right. At the convention of 1836, did it provide equality for Native Americans and slaves? No, it did not. In 1836, Texas was still having slavery. They were not getting along with the Native Americans, so their constitution certainly did not give equality. Okay? The only way that African Americans, slaves, got equality was when the 13th Amendment happened, and that was after the Civil War, which ended in 1865. Native Americans really never got equality, in my opinion. They were moved to reservations, but anyway, that's a whole nother show. All right. Why did the Alamo only last 90 minutes? Now, they had held off the Mexican army for 13 days, but why did the actual battle only last 90 minutes? Because the Texans could not hold off that many men in the Mexican army. It was like a tons compared to only a few Texans. All right. Who commanded the Texas troops at Goliad? Anybody know? James Fannin. So Goliad goes with James Fannin. Keep in mind that in the alphabet, F and G are right next to each other. So Fannin and Goliad, right next to each other, F and G. All right. The law of April 6, 1830, suspended the colonists who had no completed contract. Okay, so when you came to Texas, you had to sign a contract. And so this law that was in Mexico, it was called the Law of 1830. You're just going to have to memorize that. It made colonists leave who had not finished their contract. Yay, we're finished with another section. We have 4 more to go. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. All right, we're going to do a quick one real fast, okay? This will be fun because it's quick. There was in the 1930s, there was a big drought in Texas and really all over Oklahoma, other states. And that drought in the Great Plains where I live in Lubbock, caused the federal government to establish natural grasslands to preserve the land. And still today, I know farmers, my dad included, who rent out their land to the federal government as grassland. That means that you're not growing cotton on it and you're not using all the water. So this was to save us from using, there was no water to use. So that, anyway, and when you grow cotton year after year after year on the same land, it can mess with the soil. So it's a long story, but that's what happened. Now, the drought caused the most stress on what? And it's going to list you 4 different things. And the drought caused the most stress on the aquifer. Okay? Aquifer. Aqua is what it starts with. What color is aqua? It's blue. That stands for water. Okay? Aquifer. Aquifer is underneath the ground, and the rain that comes resupplies the aquifer. Okay? So the drought, there was no rain, that messed the most with the aquifer. All right. Now, let's look at the city of San Antonio. I hope a lot of you have been there. It's one of the most wonderful cities in Texas. When you visit San Antonio, you feel like you're almost in another country. It is delightful. It is beautiful. They have the Riverwalk. They have, I know I'm going to forget all the things they have. They have SeaWorld. They have so many things. They also, business-wise, have the San Antonio Spurs, basketball, professional basketball. They have many colleges. They have a lot of businesses, oil and gas. They've got 3 Air Force bases. They've got 1 Army base. I mean, they've got such a different group of businesses, and I know I'm forgetting some, so I apologize. They have a great vacation industry. People travel there from all over the world. So when you say, what kind of city is San Antonio as far as business and economics, it's varied. There are so many wonderful things in San Antonio. So it's a varied business style. If you talk about Fort Worth, that's mainly ag business. Ag means agriculture. So there's a lot of ag type stuff with farming, animals, a lot of cowboys, a lot of rodeos. But San Antonio is very varied. Very varied. How do you like that? Okay, we like 3 more sections. You can do it. Everybody get a drink of your Dr. Pepper or your Chick-fil-A tea or your water or whatever. All right, here we go. This one's kind of long, so I'm going to prepare you, and it's a lot of names. Are you ready? All right. True or false? The great number of Mexican troops made winning the Alamo inevitable. True. We'd already just talked about that. They had so many troops that they knew they were going to win the Alamo. All right. There was great amounts of public debt that was caused by the War of the Texas Revolution. So when Texas became its own republic, its own nation in 1836, we had a ton of public debt. And that was a challenge in the early years of our republic. True. We had a ton of debt. True. All right. After the U.S.-Mexican War, what in the world? Okay. Mexican Texas faced, After the U.S.-Mexican War, Mexican Texans faced discrimination for land. True. See, the U.S. won that war. So people who were of Mexican American or Mexican Texans, they did have discrimination was placed on them. Oh, people were discriminated against them. Sam Houston favored Texas joining the U.S. Yes, true. Los Adios. I know I'm saying these wrong. Los Adaes. It's Losadaes. These next 5 you really need to pay attention to. That was the unofficial Spanish capital of Texas. Next, Presidio San Antonio de Bexar, Bexar, was the 1718 settlement midway between the Rio Grande and the East Texas missions. So it was in the middle of the Rio Grande River and the East Texas missions, and it was called San Antonio. Just remember San Antonio. All right, the next one. San Juan Bautista was the mission near the Rio Grande known as Spanish Texas. San Juan Bautista, Bautista, was the mission near the Rio Grande. Next, Mission we got another San Antonio, so you need to distinguish between these. Mission San Antonio de Valero, Valero, was the mission chapel known today as the Alamo. Okay, let me repeat that. Mission San Antonio de Valero, I'm trying to say it right, I'm not very good at this, was the mission known as the Alamo. San Francisco de los Tejas was the first Spanish mission in East Texas. San Francisco de los Tejas, Tejas, was the first Spanish mission in East Texas. We're through with that section. We have 2 more to go. Everybody say 2, 2, 2 more to go. 2. Okay, enough of that. We've got some more names. We've got a lot of names left. Now, remember all those learning logs you did? Those fun things, learning logs? You should recognize these names from that, but it's a lot. Okay, ready? Antonio Margol de Jesus was the most successful Spanish mission in Texas. It ends with Jesus, Jesus. Antonio Margol de Jesus was the most successful Spanish mission in Texas. Okay, the word viceroy was the ruling official over a colony in the name of the King of Spain. Viceroy was not the name of a person, like, hi, my name is Vice. My last name is Roy. It wasn't that. It was called like the mayor, and in this case, it's called the viceroy. They were in charge of the colony in the name from, it was a Spanish colony. All right. Alonso Alvarez de Pineda, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, but this was the first European to see the Texas coastline. He didn't even get off the boat, but he did see the Texas coastline. First European, Alonso Alvarez de Pineda. Now, Pineda kind of looks like pinata. So let's pretend like he was on his boat and he's sailing by Texas and he sees a pinata that he wants to go and hit and break open, but he can't get out of his boat for some reason. Now, I know that's absurd, but that's how I remember it. Okay? All right. La Salle. Y'all did a lesson on La Salle where he missed the mouth of the Mississippi River and ended up in Texas. La Salle is French. And the La Salle expedition was of France, yes. And he was interested in Texas. Well, he kind of, landed in Texas on accident. But anyway, and this caused Spanish fear and a French interest. Caused the Spanish fear, but the French were interested when they did land in Texas. Now, this was during the Spanish colonial era, and what did we have in Texas? We had missions, presidios, and towns. You did a whole lesson on naming those 3 different things, but it scared the Spanish, and it was very interesting to the French. Okay, and it was an accident. All right, this is a Native American tribe, and I am going to butcher the name. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry. But the Native Americans helped the Spanish that were stranded versus the French at Fort St. Louis. Which Native American tribe helped the Spanish who were stranded? Now, it is Karankawa. Karankawas. That may be wrong. But remember, the K Native American tribe helped the Spanish who were stranded against the French at Fort St. Louis. We are down to one. We're down to one. We're down to one section. Yay, yay, yay. We're down to one. One. Here we go. Aren't you excited? Yes, you are. Okay. Lots of names here. Here we go. Washington on the Brazos was the planned site of consultation. Washington on the Brazos, the planned site of consultation. This is actually where one of the Texas meetings happened. The Texans to start planning things for the new country. Okay. Now, I do not know how to say this. Anehuac. Anahuac. It was a port at the Trinity River, and the locals objected to import duties. Import duties would be taxes. The port of the Trinity River. Velasco was a brief, bloody battle after the Mexican commander wouldn't let John Austin's ship pass. Velasco, brief, bloody battle. Nacogdoches land grant was the site of the old stone fort. Nacogdoches land grant, the site of the old stone fort. The republic created by Hayden Edwards was, I can't even read my writing, Fredonia, Fredonia. Notice that it starts with the word free, F-R-E. I know it's not E-E, but so Hayden Edwards created the free, just think of free, they were free, Fredonia. Simon de Herrera was the declared disputed Spanish and U.S. neutral ground. So the neutral ground between the Spanish and the U.S. was called, it may be Simon de Herrera. Neutral ground. Bernardo de Galvez forced the British troops from the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I have a little story to go with that one. The Galvez is a famous hotel in Galveston that's been there over 100 years. So that obviously is named after him because he protected the Gulf of Mexico and from the British troops. Like, he didn't let the British troops come in. So that goes back a long, long time. All right. Marquez de Ruby, I'm sure I'm butchering that name too, recommended that all Spanish settlers in East Texas move to San Antonio. Okay, so Marquez de Ruby recommended all Spanish settlers in East Texas move to San Antonio. Gil Yabarbo was the leader of East Texas who founded Nacogdoches. So Barbo founded Nacogdoches. Ladies and gentlemen, we are to our last two names. Baron de Ruperta, I know I'm butchering that. Ruperta closed the last 3 missions in East Texas. Baron de Ruperta closed the last 3 missions in East Texas. And now we are to our last name. And it is archaeologists found that Buttermilk Creek was when the first people arrived in Texas 2,500 years earlier than was thought. So archaeologists discovered Buttermilk Creek. Wow. Do you drink buttermilk? I don't. It really tastes bad, but it makes cakes taste really good. Buttermilk Creek was really when the first people arrived in Texas 2,500 years earlier than we thought. And folks, that is it. I went over this many notes with you. I know it's hard. I know it's long, but I've at least told you what's on the exam. Good luck. Try to figure out ways to help you remember. If it's something you already know, then don't study it. But if it's something like these names and all of that material from your learning logs, at least you know now what's on the test. So may the force be with you. Good luck. And just know that in 7B, I'm making these videos for every assessment with every module. And I will be making them also for the final in 7B. So, look forward to seeing you in there. Adios. Have a great day.